Hello and welcome to week 1 of Mean Your Message and Attract High-End Clients. Now, I'm Grace Kelly, founder of citygirlconfidence.com, coming to you live today from Italy. And I'm really pleased, ladies, that today we are dealing with week 1, getting clear. So originally in the orientation call last week, you received the opportunity to get clear on your values and to discover through that exercise what was most important to you. And I find that just starting off with having that level of clarity is very useful when you're looking in the direction of what's important to you, when you're looking in the direction of what you want to build your business around. And really, more than anything, when you find yourself feeling like you should be doing something else, you go back to your values and you just double check. You'll find that 9.5 times out of 10, you're doing exactly what you want to be doing. You know, I have a beautiful client who's joining us from Boston, and I know she won't mind me saying, but you know, when she came to Italy to work with me, we actually spent about an hour and a half on that values exercise together. And she was really caught up and hung up on the fact that she spent so long, you know, doing her nails and going to the hairdressers and shopping and, you know, taking care of her image. And when we looked at her values, it was really clear that she did have a very strong value on self-image, really had a strong value also on self-care. And, you know, as I'm sure you can understand, if you're doing something and you're beating yourself up about it, it's not an enjoyable time. It's not a nice time. But when she discovered that actually she was doing exactly what was important to her, even though that's where she was spending most of her money, spending a lot of her time and spending a lot of her energy, that kind of dissolved the guilt and the shame and the I should be doing something else scenario. So there's a freedom to getting clear first on what's important to you, in getting clear on what direction you're really all about. And I know in my own life, it was such a huge relief to really start to operate from that place, knowing that, okay, these are the 3 or 4 top things that mean the world to me. So, you know, anytime I'm not living my life in alignment with that, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to be resentful. And it was very familiar to me to look at my job and why my day job didn't work. When I looked at my values, when I looked at the 4 things that were so crucial to me, my job was not meeting any of those 4. It's no wonder the job didn't work. Okay, then I look at my relationship and I see that, you know, 9 times out of 10, the man I'm with is meeting my top values. Of course, like in every relationship, there are times when you go, for goodness sake, this isn't going to work, or this person isn't doing X, Y, or Z. But 9 times out of 10, the man I'm with and the reason that the relationship almost 10 years this coming April, ups and downs back and forth, is that there's a meeting of values going on at the same time. He's meeting the top 4 every time. Now, that doesn't sound very romantic with Valentine's Day just around the corner, but, you know, there's an element of, you know, people and jobs and situations will only last if they are really meeting or in alignment with what's important to you. And I'm not saying you have to get a job or attract a man who wants exactly the same thing you do. 9 times out of 10, you'll attract the opposite. But if the job or the business or the man is meeting what's important to you the majority of the time, it will last. He will last. Your business will succeed. So you really want to take these values that you've discovered and you want to make sure that you're that your business direction is really supporting what's important to you. Now, I'm not saying every single thing needs to be supported, but in the case of my own, well-being being the number one value, does my business meet my well-being? Hell yeah. Today I was out all morning walking. I had coffee with a friend. I had, another coffee with another friend. I saw the clock. It was 12 o'clock. I continued to walk. I got my exercise done, my well-being taken care of. I come home, I make lunch, I have a nap, I wake up, I get ready, and here I am with my lovely ladies. So, I've built the business around what's important to me. I'm not saying every day looks like that, but what I notice is that, for me, this career works because I get to put my well-being first. I get to have a business that supports my well-being. I'm not on a treadmill exhausting myself. I'm not, essentially trying to do something that takes away from what's important to me. And when I see lots of other people out there making a lot more money than me, when I see a lot more people out there doing things in a bigger way than me, rather than think to myself, oh, Grace, you could be doing that. Look how far behind you are compared to some of your colleagues. I get to be in alignment and remember that I'm getting to take care of what's most important to me in this moment, which is well-being, as opposed to money. Now, I'm not saying money's not of importance, and I'm by no means saying money's not connected to well-being. But what I'm saying is, I don't sit on my couch thinking I should be somewhere else, thinking I should be doing something else. And there's a lot of presence, there's a lot of enjoyment that I get to have as a result of not beating myself up because I think I should be somebody else. I go back to the drawing board and I look at what's important to me. And then at some point, if it makes sense to me, I'll ask a very good question, which will become, how can I make X amount of money in a business if I want to, and still get my well-being met, and still get my lifestyle met, and still go for coffee first thing in the morning and walk first thing in the morning and do whatever else is important to me first thing in the morning. It is possible. And the key here, ladies, is for you to kind of live this guilt-free experience, because I can tell you that's where your clarity is going to come from. The biggest block to getting clear is getting lost in thinking you should be doing or being somebody else. Doing something else, being somebody else, already at something else. Nothing blocks the view more than you having expectations on yourself that aren't even in alignment with what's important to you. Nothing exhausts you more than trying to live a life that's not meeting what's important to you. And so there's something for us to see about the fact that, having done your values exercise in the orientation call, you're already halfway clear compared to what you were last week. You're already halfway clear, if not some of you fully clear, that your decisions and your life and your business must revolve around these things that are meaningful to you. And if you're tired, you want to go back to the drawing board and look at what's not being included in your work, in your relationship life, in general. Because when you live your life in alignment with what's important to you, you will naturally start to have more energy, to attract more opportunity. People, clients in particular, prospects in particular, will want to work with you. And as we can see, there's so much to be had by understanding what's truly for you. So I'm setting the table here today with just this element of, what it is that prevents us from getting clear and what it is that can help us get clear. And I'm loving that Elizabeth, darling, in Boston, we were just chatting earlier this week as well about what was important to Elizabeth, and just now about the self-image and just having that freedom of knowing what's important and how that frees you up. Elizabeth, I'm just going to bring you on for a second. How are you? I can see you're doing your eyes and everything perfectly ready for us.
I've been shoveling snow. Hi, everyone. I had to go to my parents' house because we have a big snowstorm and the shovelers didn't show up, so I can't be seen. I've been shoveling all morning. But
don't worry. I just wanted to ask you because, Elizabeth, we spoke earlier about, just having that clarity on what was important. I know it was really meaningful for you in terms of how it felt to get clear on your specific values. How has life changed since then, or what's been different? Give us a few words and let us know.
Yeah, it was so freeing for me. I felt like I got permission to be myself, because I used to fight with, the self-image part and the self-care, like, I shouldn't be doing all this, spending all this time on my nails and all that kind of stuff, like you mentioned. And after we did that exercise, and probably, it wasn't right away. I mean, I think I felt good right away, but it's been, I think since then, it's been so freeing. And when I do those things, when I focus on that in my business, you're right. I don't feel that exhaustion. I don't feel that burden or pressure on myself, like stop doing that. It's really freeing. That's how it feels for me.
And how have you brought it into your business, knowing that it is important to you? Have you got any examples of how you bring image and style into the business?
Well, soon after we had done that exercise, I was featured in the style section of the big Boston newspaper. And they talked about how I was making sports stylish, like we had talked about. And then after that, so I continued to kind of stay on that track. And then I got a TV opportunity with for a reality series. And that was so much about my image and things like that. So once I embraced that, these things started happening. And now people say to me, and I'm not a stylist or anything like that, but I was just at the Super Bowl, and I got so many people emailing me and texting me or instant messaging me on Instagram. What are you going to wear to the game? We want to see pictures of where you're sitting, where you're eating for the game, all that kind of stuff. And so it's almost like, wow, people want what is really what's true for me or what's important for me, and people want to see more of it. So it's just sort of been a natural, it's been great.
Lovely. Thanks for sharing, honey. I thought you were a really good example. So I'm sorry to bring you on so quickly, but I wanted you to share.
No, it was amazing. Thank you, Grace.
So, this is an example, ladies, obviously I do attract women as well that are interested in style, right? Like it's an important value of mine. It's not the only one, but I do attract women as you will attract women or men who are interested in what you're interested in. Okay. And Elizabeth's just a really good example of how it started to show up in her business life the moment she stopped feeling guilty about it. So her seeing, oh yeah, of course I'm going to spend X amount of time, going to my gym, doing my hair and nails, getting as soon as she could start feeling freedom, as she mentioned about that, because it was part of who she was, it sort of opened up even bigger opportunities in terms of bringing it into her business very naturally, not something that you have to control, ladies. So it's that element of getting clear first by knowing what's important to you, and then really knowing that clarity is always there. There's a couple of things that kind of makes it look like it's not there. As we mentioned, one being thinking that you should be doing something else or you should be someone else at this stage, not knowing what's truly important to you. None of you in this group should have that difficulty anymore, having done that exercise. And the second block that I see coming up for women is, they're kind of, they know exactly what they want to do. They know exactly what's next for them, whether it's a business or a career move or a relationship move or a life change or whatever it is, that we always know what we want. But our good friend, the insecure thinker, starts to come in as soon as we get that clarity and really makes it look like we don't know, because she takes over. She gets louder and louder and louder and louder. It's what I call habitual thought, right? You'll hear me making reference to this: habitual thinking, insecure thinking, and this becomes a storm. As she gets more attention over time, she revs herself up in your head to form a thought storm. And the thought storm can really make it look like you don't know what to do. So there's an element around getting clear by moving beyond the storm that you're currently in. Some of you are in a storm about, well, what's my business going to look like? Some of you might be in a storm about, well, how do I get the sign-ups? And what am I doing wrong or right on a call? And some of you might be in a storm about, well, how do I, get this career going without burning myself out, or without going broke, or without, having to depend on my husband, or at my age, sometimes some of you very, very authentically have shared that, Grace, at my age, how do I get this going? I want you to start to notice, right? Anything that does not feel peaceful and a sense of relief is not your wisdom speaking to you. It's her. It's the insecure thinker within you. Everything from, well, I don't have the right image. Well, I don't have the right bank account. Well, I don't have experience. I'm not experienced enough. But I've always been a hairdresser, so I can only ever be a hairdresser, like mine used to be, but I've only been a teacher. I can only ever be a teacher, and a teacher only earns a certain amount of money. Well, all of that habitual thinking, which frankly, you probably don't have a hold of yet. You probably just let go through and take it as a given. What we want to start doing in order to develop even deeper clarity is we want to get a hold of the difference between the insecure thinker within you and your wisdom. Now, starting to recognize the difference, right? One, and this is for me personally, the insecure thinking is very habitual. It's very, it's the same thing over and over again. One of my things is I give in to my urges very quickly. So if I want something, I'm going to get it and I'm going to have it now. And I give in to my habitual thinking quickly. And because of that sort of, that has kind of meant that if I want to make a change, I have bought into the belief that it's very hard for me to make a change in some areas because I give in to the urge too quickly. So like if I want to eat protein for a day and try and like get rid of the crap from my body, my insecure thinker will be rampant And by 1 o'clock, she will have me saying, oh, it's no big deal. I'll just have that biscuit. I'll just have that glass of wine. Oh, what does it matter, Grace? You know, you look fine, Grace. And she will go at me until I give in. And regardless of any sort of desire of mine to make a change, because she's the habitual one, because she's louder than everybody else sometimes, then when I didn't know that's what was going on, I would often give in. I would act on the urge. I would give in to the urge. I would give in to her thinking. And then, of course, you beat yourself up and you feel crap the next day. Now, I'm just giving an example here. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for me, I really started to see the difference, because when wisdom is speaking, she's not trying to get me to do something. She's not trying to convince me of something. Wisdom is very neutral for me. Wisdom is very clear and matter of fact. Wisdom does not consume my mind with lots of thinking. And that's how you'll recognize your habitual thinking, your insecure thinking versus your wisdom. Wisdom doesn't need to talk a lot to you, but the other part of you can't shut up, right? Like literally won't stop. She'll drive you mad. You'll find yourself needing to grab the bottle of wine just to shut her up, right? So you really want to get a hold of the difference. And as much as it might seem so too simplified, what I'm really saying here is you have absolute clarity, but you're giving way too much attention to your habitual thinking, also called, in my opinion, your insecure thinking, because it's usually thinking that makes you feel like crap. It's usually thinking that revs you up instead of calms you down. So anytime we're trying to get clear, we go back to the drawing board of our values to help us. Is this important to me? Is it in my top 3 or 4? Oh, I've got an important decision to make. Let me check in on my values. Let me see, does that match? Okay. But then we have something even more powerful when we're trying to get clear. Oh, are we listening to habitual thought, or are we checking in with wisdom? I really got the wisdom on leaving my job probably 3 years before I left. And I spent 3 years ignoring the quiet wisdom telling me, it's not this, Grace. It's something else, Grace. Move on, Grace. Find something else. Because I really ignored it. And as a result of ignoring it, of course, I began to get exhausted. I had a lot of time off work. That didn't make me feel good about when I was at work. You know, I felt guilty. You know, I was letting my colleagues down. I was letting my kids down. But most of all, I was letting myself down. I was ignoring that wisdom. And then I remember when I finally left, I really felt good. And that's how you can know the difference too, ladies, you know, like wisdom has you feel good, doesn't have you feel, you know, kind of crap about what you're doing. It just has a really nice sense of relief about it. And for me, it was such a huge change to go and leave an English speaking country, pack up my whole life into a car and, you know, basically put my sort of trust in my man that everything was going to be okay, and travel across Europe and start life afresh with no job, no language of such to speak, and no friends. You know, someone who's got a huge value on connection and friendship, finding herself in a country with, you know, no one that she can connect with except, you know, her own partner. So, but see, it didn't matter. None of that mattered because I was following through on the wisdom. It felt okay. It felt like something I could do. Now, roll on a number of months when I'm there, and I spent time in the spaciousness, in the unknown. I immersed myself in the unknown. And that is one thing that if you're trying to get clear, you want to stop clogging up your mind with more information. That's why, as I said to one of our attendees, this isn't an information product that we've got going on here. None of you need more information as far as I'm concerned. All of you need more connection to your own wisdom, which is why in between these calls, it is your job and your responsibility to really deeply give yourself space and time to connect, to check in. And as I sat on the beach in Italy after getting here, I spent some time checking in, getting familiar with Grace again, getting to know me again. I'm not saying you need to go to a beach to do that. I have spent many days, mornings, afternoons around the world in different cities when I've been working with clients, and I have checked in with myself, even just 10 minutes first thing in the morning, getting clear and getting connected. And one of the questions that I asked myself when I was here was I kept asking myself, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do with people? And I remember this was such a huge question the first year I was here. But what is it? What am I meant to do next? What am I meant to do with people? Well, ladies, I actually heard my wisdom and I didn't trust it. So I went and I ended up later on working with someone, and I paid a lot of money to hear exactly the same thing from myself again. And when I heard it through myself in her presence, I knew that I had all the answers to anything I would ever need to know. Now, the wisdom I heard, and I'll share it with you personally, it was very personal to me. It was my purpose. It was something I'd been really trying to get clear on for months. And all I heard was this: to ease the pain. I kept asking, what am I here to do? How am I going to help you? What am I here to help you with? What's my purpose? To ease the pain. Now you take a message like that, the deepest message that I have within my being, but I was going to run with that. That was it for me. And as you can see, I have translated that and I've brought that into a business in a way that every single one of you can understand exactly why you'd work with me. And I never say to you to ease the pain, but I know what I'm up to with you and I know what I'm here to do. Now that level of clarity, which was important to me at the time, seemed very simplified, seemed too easy that me, a school teacher, could understand just by asking and connecting in with herself on a daily basis, that I could actually understand the answer to my quest, the quest I'd been on for so long. And that's why I'm saying to you, the answer you're searching for, you already have clarity on. It's in you. Taking some time to get familiar with it, to get clear on it, to hear it, is probably going to be the hardest thing some of you ever do, because you're so used to being busy, being fast, being internally revved up. And then taking that message, once you've got that, we're likely going to want to take that and translate it into something your people can understand. it made no sense for me to market myself as someone who eased the pain. You know, it made no sense for me to create programs around easing pain, but really looked at what that message meant and what direction that was going to go in. It was easily translatable, and I really do feel that today, at least I hope, I ease some of your pain when it comes to starting something new, creating a business, getting out of the situation you're in, leaving careers. So to sum it up, and I'm going to open the floor now for your questions. Your clarity is there. You likely already have the answer to what it is you want to do. You're likely purchasing and buying into a lot of habitual thinking, ignoring your wisdom in the process. This week is all about you checking in and getting clear. All of you taking the time to connect. You do not need a beach and 9 months to do that. You need about 3 to 5 minutes, and you need to be, you just need to get out of your own way and do it. So I'm curious to hear what you hear in this, what's coming up for you, what questions are coming to mind, what else you want to ask me on the subject of getting clear, anything that will help you get clear today. And as always, don't be afraid to be visible. You're in a safe group, in a safe space. But I'd love to hear from you. So does anybody want to raise their hand with what's come up or what you'd like help with on this subject? Hey, Lorraine.
Hey, Grace. Hi, ladies. You know me pretty well. Like just now when I was tapping in, I got leader of women. I get that a lot when I go into my quiet space.
Yeah.
My biggest imperative really is connection to spirit. And I'm really shy about talking about that. Although that runs through the thread of all the things I email and I write, because I think it's woo-woo and people are going to criticize me and that there's something wrong with me and there must be something to it, because I'm tearing up right now. I'm ashamed of it. I'm embarrassed of it because I think it's not the right thing. But it's who I've always been, all the way back to when I was a little girl. You know, all I wanted to do when I was 6 years old was be a nun. And that's because that's all I could relate to as far as spirit. That's all I knew at that time, you know, movies with Julie Andrews and and so I guess I translate that by helping women go within and finding who they are, because you can't do that shit without connecting to spirit. It just ain't there. So I guess that's how I have come full circle with it. Mm-hmm. And then I think, oh, wow, you're just going to be like all the others, you know, and oh God, just the thing, you know, it's like, whoa. So.
Yeah. Well, it's super cool you're being honest. Sorry, did you want to ask us something?
No, just do you have anything for me on that?
It's super cool you're being honest. And I think, you know, lots of women here can relate to that fear of criticism, which comes up. What I notice when you speak, Lorraine, is you got teary and emotional, not because the spiritual aspect to your message is woo-woo, but it seemed to me because you started feeling shame. That has nothing to, like, what I saw there was shameful thinking came in and generated a feeling of tears. It has nothing to do with connecting to spirit, nothing to do with your message whatsoever. So and I can say this to Lorraine because I know her pretty well, but let's not confuse our feeling with the message, your feeling in this moment with those tears really started to heighten into emotion with this conversation around feeling ashamed, not around spirit is part of my message.
So what's the work then? I was hoping that was verifying.
Huh?
I was hoping that was verifying. Oh, good, tears. That must be what it is. Because it did feel like a relief to admit that to all of you, that this is it. You know, there is nothing more important to me than having, I just keep seeing this funnel on the top of my head with spirit coming into it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you said it's running through your work already. You said it's running through your copywriting. It's running through what you're doing with people. So, you know, why does it have to be anything more if it's already running through everything you're doing?
I guess I think it's kind of like, you know, coming out with when you're gay, going, hey, I'm gay, you know, like I'm supposed to do that, you know.
And here's the thing, everyone's already going, yeah, we know, because they're seeing it in your copywriting, they're seeing it in how you work with people, and they're accepting it. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep reading.
Okay. And this morning in the bath, okay, because I'm still, my retreat is next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm still marketing for it, and it's awesome. And this morning in the bath, I was saying, okay, now after this, it's now that I've gotten some momentum, people, I'm blasting them with these emails about, you know, finding yourself, you know, remembering who you are, connecting to your inner wisdom, blah, blah, blah. And so that's already getting identified. And now it would just be a great next step to, okay, the people who couldn't make it to the retreat, to make something like that into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah. Especially for people who can't arise. You know, your wisdom is already guiding you, you know, and it just seems to me like, you know your right spirit and leading women through that too, right? And they know it because they're reading it and they're seeing it, and anyway, they're feeling it from you. So any habitual thinking that you get around what are they going to say, what are they going to do, just use that analogy. I think that was great. You know, it is like, yeah, you're coming out of the gay closet, but everyone's going, yeah, Lorraine, we know. Hey, we already know. We love you.
That's hilarious. That's exactly what I tell my gay lady client. You know, she's so afraid to come out. I'm like, everyone can tell.
Yeah. But it's the same with you in spirit, you know, people aren't going to be shocked. I mean, it's not like suddenly you're bringing in Scientology and like people are like, what? You know, they're actually just feeling it through your copywriting anyway. You know,
it's not any particular prescription. It's just simply whatever works for them, whatever their connection to spirit is. It might be their Catholicism, might be Mother Mary, you know, it doesn't matter. Just so that you remember that you're an infinite being. You're not here slogging through the day in, day out.
Yeah.
That's not who you are.
What I think might be helpful for you to remember is that they're hungry for connection to their own spirit.
Yes, they are.
They're hungry for that too. And just what I just noticed in what you said was, it was almost like maybe they're not wanting that, or they're not gonna want that. And like, if they're a human being, they're connected to spirit. If they're struggling in life, they're wanting more connection to that spirit. You happen to be the channel, the bridge, the possibility. And so maybe sometimes as you get lost in your own insecurity about it, you might forget, oh, they're actually already looking for more of this, because it's who they are. It's who they are.
That's so exciting. I feel like I'm coming home to myself just in this conversation.
Yeah. Sometimes we feel, ladies, like we have to blurt it out in our marketing and in our work and in our Facebook posts, like we have to blurt out what it's all about. And it's like, no, people are really smart. People have their own wisdom. They will read between the lines. What did you hear in that had you breathe a sigh of relief?
Well, I feel like I did come out of the closet just now. And
we're all celebrating you coming out.
I'm a spirit, woo woo. I'm a witch. I'm a white witch. Yeah, just the eons of criticism and over.
Yeah. They're not yours.
Yeah.
Cool. Look forward to seeing what develops as a result of you coming out of the closet.
Thank you.
Were already. You're welcome. Who's next, ladies? Of course, it's helpful when we hear from each other. Rhonda.
I just have a comment, and it's just a comment on both the ladies, and nothing about me right now, maybe later, but both on Elizabeth and Lorraine, and it's just about how authentic they are in their own message. Elizabeth about style, and Lorraine about the spirit there, and about, there's people there hungry for that authenticness. And both of them today, as they explained, they're so authentic about their, when Elizabeth talked about style and talked about, I was so into just listening to her and how authentic she just displayed it. And, her tribe, there's a tribe for her, because there's people looking for that mess. I can understand it, and it's the same with Lorraine, the way she's talking there now. It's so authentic to her, and the spiritual connection. So it's so impressing. So I had to just comment on both you ladies and that, how authentic it is, and when you speak to your message there. So, and that, you are a channel for possibility for the people that are looking for you, and they're there. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Do you want to say something, Elizabeth? Hang on.
Thank you for that. Sorry, Rhonda, thank you for that. That was amazing. That actually brings tears to my eyes, because I've been struggling so long with, does anybody even care about this? Maybe I should be something else. Maybe I should do things a different way. As recently as last week, I emailed Grace, and I was beside myself. I had worked with this stylist, and she kept telling me things like, I said, Keely, I'm at the very base of things. I'm a fan. But I feel like I'm a more stylish sports fan. And she kept saying, "You're not a fan. You're a boss. You need to show yourself as a stronger. You can't be doing these like silly posts with your baseball cap on and things like that. You need to have a different. You need to be more like Victoria Beckham." And I said to her very honestly, I said, "I'm not Victoria Beckham. That's not me. She's wonderful and beautiful in her own way, but that's not me. I'm myself, and I don't want to lose myself, because that's how I feel like I connect to people." And she very much got in my head. I allowed her to get in my head. And so when I was at the Super Bowl, and I was actually sitting in a box, and so I was like, "Oh, well, you see, it's because I'm like the boss type person." And I missed out, because at the end of the game, if I had been just being authentic, I would have gone down on the field like the other fans did. And I would have picked up the confetti, and I would have had that, and I would have taken more pictures and done things. But I was not being true to myself, because I let this other people's ideas come in, and thinking that what I wasn't enough. And so I really appreciate you saying that, that there is a tribe for me. So
Oh,
that
yes.
really helped a lot. So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Rhonda. Yeah, and I think what I'm really hearing here as well, ladies, which is an important piece to remember, is that when you are speaking from the message you mean, right? And obviously spirit for Lorraine is a part of that message, style for Elizabeth is a part of that message. But when you're speaking from the message you mean, people will hear you. Even if they were never interested in that subject before, they will hear you. Because like Rhonda identified, there was an authenticity, so I kind of was leaning in and listening more. You know, people hear you when you speak from that meaning. Now, that's not to say you have to go and excavate your mind for the next 7 days on exactly what you mean. But it's just to say that, you know, the reason you don't have to get hung up on how perfect your message is that A, people can feel your message when it's authentic. Rhonda was an example of that just now. And B, people are smart. They have wisdom. They can read between the lines. You don't have to be out there shouting, I'm all about spirit. And you don't have to be out there shouting, I'm all about style. They get it. Okay, they get it from you. So let's not freak out too much about, well, it has to be absolutely perfect. I mean, I had no idea how to present or what easing the pain, how that had any relationship to what I do at the time. And now as I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm all about well-being, and I'm all about helping other people with their well-being. And the well-being that I'm interested in is in the form of one's career, because I believe if you have a great career stroke business, that it really impacts your well-being, and vice versa. If you got great well-being, it impacts your career and your business. But come on, I mean, it started with something as sort of blasé as to ease the pain, right? So there's really something about remembering that when your message is authentic to you, people hear it and the right people come. I would say there's not one of you on this call or in my private coaching that's not interested in having a deeper sense of well-being. I would say there's not one of you that's not interested in some element of, you know, having a really good career in business and really good well-being at the same time. You know, so the people come towards you. It's not you going out. Like, I don't go and interview Parwinder and Rhonda and Mandy. Well, let me see now. Are you interested in well-being? Are you interested in career? Because if not, we can't work together. It's just that these are the types of women that show up, because guess what? They're smart. You're all reading between the lines, even if I'm not screaming it in my copywriting at all times. Margaret, did you have your hand up, darling?
That was a beautiful from Lorraine, well, Elizabeth and Rhonda. From what came to me there, what would we put that would be coming, like, that's a value as well. Like you're not like with it, because spirit for me is really but I don't kind of put it in a different box. It's just kind of, that's especially me with the goddess kind of thing, that's always been for me a hidden kind of message behind that. But it is really what I would see as a value that I never realised until now, that I would say, well, it is a value for me to be authentic to myself. Yeah, is that?
Yeah.
It's so that's like, what came when Lorraine was. It was like maybe a way then as well. That's actually that's one of your. And sorry, I can't see. I'm only seeing you, Grace. So I'm speaking. Okay. Right, I've normally can get the gallery, but I don't know what's happened, so I can't see you.
That's okay.
So that's what came there when Lorraine was sharing that. Just I had a little aha, like, what, right? So that's a value then as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of, what comes to me is kind of, where is spirit not? And there's so many of us, so many of us trying to hide this spirit part, you know, and it's like, well, where is it not? It's showing up in style. It's showing up in technology. It's showing up in art. It's showing up in relationships, in love, in money. And yet, you know, sometimes we still feel like, well, we better not talk too much about spirit because people mightn't get it. Just like the world is so ready for more talking about spirit and more, you know, connection to spirit and more, because you know, it's a reconnection to self. Well, thanks, Margaret. Anyone else want to share or ask a question or got something on their mind? We're really looking at the topic of getting clear today. So anything that's coming to you that's like not clear, or you want some clarity on, or you might want me to laser in on with you. Mandy, did you put your hand up? Oh, but Mandy and Pawinder. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mandy,
Pawinder, you go. Pawinder, go.
Sorry, I'm just, okay. No, I couldn't find the hand raising thing, so I physically raised my hand.
That's okay.
Yeah, hi Lorraine, thank you for sharing. It's good to see you again. Yeah, what came to me was what you said. I mean, it really resonated with me, a lot of that stuff, because I struggle with the whole, like, well, part of what I'm doing is bringing that spiritual element and that healing side of it with the coaching as well, but also putting it in a language which speaks to people from the corporate world, as well as individuals who are into the spiritual or the healing side of things. So, yeah, it's something I'm always kind of trying to gauge. And I find myself sometimes I'm speaking more in the corporate language, and sometimes I'm speaking more in the healing side of things. Yeah, and what really resonated is when you said they are hungry for their connection to spirit. And actually that's so universal. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or you're not recognizing it, or whether you're, you know, on a journey and really connected to spirit. They, underneath what's going on, they are all searching to have a deeper connection with spirit.
Yeah. And are you finding, Pawinder, that the corporate world is open to that language, or are you sometimes adapting, or how are you finding that world?
Yeah, I'm finding sometimes I'm able to speak to them and have them kind of open up to something. But I think that's also because with my music therapy, it has a very practical element to it. So I can engage with them on the more practical end, although I know they're going to go through the experience and have more from it. But yeah, I tend to try and gauge and put it into a language that they would understand or connect with.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, you know, it does kind of come down to whatever you're going to do with people, ladies. It's a spiritual work, really. You know, your purpose, your reason for being, whatever you create in the world, first comes from your spirit, you know. And so if we can take heart also with Pawinder, you know, and certainly my experience with corporates as well, you know, everyone's open to that. You know, I've really never come across anyone who's been like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. You know, and sometimes it is an adaptation of language. One of the ways many of you will hear me describe it is, you know, when we're talking about wisdom, or we're talking about what we call the intelligence behind life. For me, it's God. For some people, it's not. So I don't, you know, we find other ways to share. But I'll say to people, and this might be helpful for some of you, but I'll say to people that maybe I don't know very well, or people that I don't know what their spiritual orientation is, but I'll say, well, you know, it's kind of like the thing that turns acorns into oak trees and embryos into babies without us doing anything. Do you know what I mean? And they'll say, oh yeah, you're right. I wonder what does do that. Wonder what does do all of that. Or using examples of sort of just, I find nature just a really great examples. How do the wheels know that they need to migrate and travel on a certain date at a certain time every single year, and set out on that journey and end up there and then return at exactly the same time? Like, how do they know to do that? Well, that's what we're talking about. That's to you and I on this course, we can say, well, that's spiritual energy, that's the God connection, or that's just, universal intelligence. But even if you're speaking with people that maybe you're not able, you can't use that language, they'll still go, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that is a kind of phenomenon that has some sort of intelligence behind it. I remember reading an example, I think it was of a heart surgeon. And, the surgeon was all about the heart and making sure that, the heart was beating and everything was working with the heart. And I remember the interviewee was like, yeah, but what makes the heart beat? And the surgeon was like, well, the heart's a muscle. It beats because there's a thing in the heart that makes it beat. And the interviewer was like, yeah, but what's the thing in the heart that makes the muscle move that then makes it beat? And the surgeon was like, oh, I've never really considered that could be. And then he took a moment and he realized he'd been doing surgery on hearts for 35 years. And he'd never really considered the possibility that there was an intelligence behind the heart, making the heart beat, just as it's making you and I breathe right now. And even, with his biological background, with his medical background, with his intellectual understanding, of course he couldn't deny that there was something making that muscle move that even he didn't have a clue what it was, because he'd never even heard of it before, studied it before, looked at it before. It was just a given. So, again, where is spirit not on our journey, ladies? And Lorraine, you're probably not attracting heart surgeons and medics and all of that just yet. You might be in due course, the more comfortable you are with your message. But even these very intellectual medical people have got to agree there's something behind life. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to be afraid to mention the S word. In my house, the S word was sex. You weren't allowed to say that, but now it's spirit. So that's a good improvement. The S word. Alrighty. Thanks, Winder. I'm sorry I muted you there, darling. That was really good to bring.
Yeah, no, and just the other thing is, like, when you said about wisdom, it's like this weekend I was at an event in London, and as I walked in, or I walked out of the room for one of the breaks, right in front of me was a business strategist that I did some work with, and was due a testimonial from him. So it was interesting that I walked out and he was right there. And so I was talking to him, and a few minutes later I said, "Oh, aren't you going to do a testimony? Because I thought you'd bring that up straight away." And then I sat down, and it was 2 days, and I sat down, walked back in the room, and someone had moved my seat, so I sat ahead, and all of a sudden I felt this urge to look next to me, and there sat one of the ladies that I had a discovery call with a little while back, and again she was going to send me a testimonial as well. And it was interesting just sitting there thinking, well, they both just occurred at the same moment. And she just turned to me and said, I've been meaning to call you. And I was like, and she's on my list of people to call as well. So it's just recognizing where the wisdom is speaking to you, and following through with it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's always there, the synchronicities showing up, and we can be so busy that we miss the synchronicity, or we kind of take it for granted. I saw a friend of mine yesterday, and she's 42 years old, and all she ever wanted was to get married and have a baby. And she's gotten married and she's having a baby in 2 months' time, all within the space of like the last 2 years. And we were talking about what a miracle, like what an incredible thing. We can almost take it for granted that we get what we want, but we can get so busy and so lost in our own thought storms that we kind of don't see the synchronicity, or we don't see that it's a gift and a miracle that we're getting what we want. So we were just discussing what an amazing miracle it was, and how cool it was that she'd manifested what she wanted, even though the doctors had said, no, at 42, and you've got this issue with your uterus, and you're not going to be able to have children, you've no chance. And here she is, like 6 months pregnant. So again, there's an intelligence behind life that goes far beyond the doctor's point of view. It goes way beyond the surgeon's point of view, but it's working through the doctor. It's working through the surgeon. It's working through you and I as we come on a call like this, or as we go out into the world and connect with people and do our work with people. And that wisdom, that intelligence is always available to us, but it tends to show up in very ordinary ways, that perhaps we're not always seeing or taking note of. It could be a nice thing this week, ladies, for you to maybe start making a note or a little journal on synchronicities, what's showing up. Like in Elizabeth's case, like she said, she was going to Super Bowl, and suddenly these women were starting to email her, on a subject that she was kind of feeling like maybe she shouldn't be doing, but now here we have the synchronicity of people saying, but we want to know where you're going to be and what you're going to wear. We want to see what you're doing your way, not somebody else's way. So maybe a nice synchronicity journal could be a helpful exercise this week, so that you can start to make a note of, what's showing up, who's showing up, what's happening. And often without you having to do anything, like Pawinder said, she just happened to go to an event. Well, that's how wisdom works. She happens to follow her wisdom, go to an event, and lo and behold, she meets two people that both, sort of what I'm hearing, have something to offer her, be it a testimonial or perhaps another discovery call or something else. So again, it's following that. It's following those haunches. Do this, go there, try that. Very gentle, matter of fact wisdom, as opposed to, oh my God, I should be doing this at this stage and I still haven't done it, and I'm filled with urgency and I can't do it and I should do it. And, any of that nonsense. Take your foot off the gas and go and lie down. Go and lie down. Urgency is the biggest reminder that you are not to listen to your habitual thinking. Urgency is such a good feedback system, because it's letting you know you're not in wisdom right now. You're in freak out syndrome. You're in the insecurity. You're getting lost. But for me, things I do from an urgent state aren't ever as graceful and enjoyable as things that, I do settled state. And I'm not saying that we're always going to be settled and we're always going to be in wisdom, but, let's start to get grips with how the insecurity shows up, how the habitual thinking shows up. And sometimes the feedback is helpful. Urgency, good feedback that you need to slow down, not speed up. Fearfulness, good feedback that you're getting lost in fearful thinking and you can't trust it. Panic and anxiety, really good feedback that you're so revved up internally, the world is spinning and you're not breathing properly. So we have our own feedback system in the body. We have our own symptoms. Connie said last week, well, when I get an idea, the first thing I want to do is grab the mop and start cleaning the house. And I'll distract myself. And I was thinking, gosh, I wish I would distract myself with cleaning, but no. So she would she has her feedback for when she's getting lost in fearful thinking, So start looking for the synchronicities in your life and start looking for the symptoms for when you're getting lost in thought. Lorraine, sorry, darling. Go ahead.
As you were talking about that, urgency and revved up, I think I'm addicted to it.
Very possible. Yeah.
Like, fuck, who am I if I'm not that? Like, fuck, if I lay it down and don't, am I going to get it done? Can I trust myself to get it done? Can I trust myself to be a leader? Or whatever it is, that identity I've got going on in my mind. The 4 emails a week, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and it's quite familiar to me too, and here's what my experience has been of it, is that when we're that revved up, and we're in that addiction to the adrenaline, really, because literally it's urgency and speed, and the adrenaline is pumped into the system, right? So when we're that connected to that, oftentimes what I started noticing for myself was when that urgency was falling away, like the alternative was lying on the sofa doing nothing. So I went from urgent stress, adrenaline, to sofa, sleep, can't do anything. And I really was so concerned that was where I was going to stay. And I remember my coach saying to me, if you've been living like that for so long, you're going to need a bit of that. But at some point, wisdom will move you off the couch. Now, it did, because we're born to succeed. We're born to create. We're born to evolve. But because I'd lived life like that, in that urgent, stressful, adrenaline mode, when I started to see when I started to really see that, the alternative kind of for me didn't look like lying on the sofa getting nothing done for a while. And I had to trust that I wasn't going to stay there. And I did freak out at times going, yeah, but when am I going to get off the sofa? Yeah, but. And I just had to trust that whatever rest I was receiving, I was then going to be using at some point. And now I believe that I'm living a lot more of a balance in terms of that, and knowing when I'm getting caught in the urgency and the stress. It's not that it's gone away completely, but it's that it's not in the driving seat like it was. So you can take, I wouldn't be surprised if you needed a sort of a restful time, you know, as you begin to become less urgent and you begin to operate from your true self. For others, they didn't have that experience, Lorraine. Some others were totally urgent adrenaline junkies, and they didn't need the sofa time and the rest time. They just found a really easy balance really naturally. You'll find your way. You'll find your way, and the fact you can see it is fab.
I'm just going to make this quick because I know someone else might want to say something, but I think it's the addiction to the shame and the guilt and that I'm wrong. And as I came back from Atlanta yesterday with my son and I was at the house, my daughter-in-law, the perfect storm erupted where I did something she didn't like. And, you know, instead of like, because you know how I went over it went for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, letting Martha go. This was just like a night to go, well, okay, she thinks differently than me. I'm just going to, so, whew, you know, I'm just reckoning she'll probably never like me and never approve of me. So I just let it go. I mean, I came around so much faster, but it was the fucking invitation. Here, step into this shame, step into, oh yeah, you know, dance around trying to get her to like you and approve of you. You know, it was the invitation, and that invitation, I think the urgency is the invitation to step back into the cow shit. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, here's a cow pie, go ahead. Right there, step, oh good, you're in it. Now it's all over your shoes and this feels familiar. But I really feel myself elevating out of these calls to step back into staying small.
Yeah. See, it's really cool. That's what I mean by, you know, you don't have to worry too much because you're seeing it. It's like putting a light on in the dark room. You're spotting the invitation instead of accepting it straight away. And there's power in that because it's a different choice that you make. You know, one of the most helpful things that I've heard recently, you know, that we don't have to act on our thinking, and we don't have to act on the urge. You know, we all think we have to act on it immediately, like in Lorraine's case. Well, in the past, might have acted on the invitation to be in an argument, or to, you know, to need approval, or to make sure the other person liked her. Now she's seeing that and she's not acting on it, which eventually, of course, leads to a completely different experience of life and people experiencing you differently also. So, I mean, that's a huge sign of progress, Lorraine. Well done.
Thank you.
Really well done. Really well done. Yeah. So anything else coming up to finish off today in terms of getting clear? Is anyone freaking out that they're not going to get clear or what? Rhonda, you got your hand up.
I just have one small thing. I actually have a synchronicity that happened just like a half hour before this call. So I have one of my, from that you gave us as a thing to do already. So I'm in an urgent rush this morning. I'm on the Eastern Seaboard up from Boston. So we're getting 40 centimeters of snow tomorrow. So I'm out today, we're rushing, getting all the chores done. So I had to go pick up a dress. So I'm at the store and the ladies, and I'm like, I'm really in a rush. I got to get back for my call. And the ladies are there, and I'm like, so anyway, so my message is about wellness and possibility and things. So, and the lady says, oh, here she comes, Skinny Minnie. Now, I've lost 100 pounds, so I'm not really used to people calling me Skinny Minnie. So first I look at the lady and go, oh yeah, Skinny Minnie, I'm not used to that. And so it becomes a little joke in the store, and you know. So anyway, before it's all said, and I'm in an urgent mode, so I don't really, but I kind of try to stop myself and go, okay, and it, you know, slow down a little bit. Anyway, before it's all over, one of the ladies has weight on, so I end up talking to her about weight, which is a part of my message. And the other lady, believe it or not, has had a similar surgery as mine, because I have an 8-inch cut in my stomach. She really had a similar surgery. And we ended up having a wellness, I had a mean your message story, like in like 5 minutes. And I'm going, this is crazy. And I'm like, okay, but I gotta go because I gotta get on my call. So when you talk about synchronicity and how, like, that was a moment for me, how, you don't know where you're going to have a stage for your message.
Yeah. And spotting the opportunity, I suppose we can link it to that too. This business is not just about knowing what you're up to. It's about spotting opportunity. And what I'm hearing in your synchronicity, Rhonda, is, those two women could have been in front of you and you could have been so lost in thought about whatever.
Yeah.
Right? That you didn't spot the opportunity to share your message or maybe swap numbers or whatever. And I've done it too. There's been people in front of me at times where I'm so caught up about something else that afterwards I'm like, oh shit, they would have been ideal prospects to speak to. So, wisdom is always people that need you. And people that need you are being guided towards you, which is why you don't have to freak out about finding clients, getting clients, doing the client thing correctly. There is an intelligence behind life trying to bring forth towards you what it is you're already seeking. Your job is a bit like Rhonda. Don't be afraid to share the message when they're in front of you. Notice them, spot them, and take it from there. Don't be so lost in thought that you're not present with people. And even though, Rhonda, you had a bit of urgency going on, you clearly weren't that caught up that you couldn't recognize when there was an audience.
Right. Exactly. And I haul back, right? So I stopped and I said, and I took the 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I did it and I stopped. No doubt. In my front foyer, there's a whole load of bags. And when my husband came home from the trainer, he probably went, what happened? Because he had to trickle over him on the way in because I was just right minute to the minute for this call. But the point was I did take the 5 minutes to talk to the ladies and I'm proud I caught myself, but that is a moment I could have missed. So I learned a lesson. So it's really interesting that you're talking about it right now because with synchronicities, I'm writing that down in my little book when I get off the call.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think that will be a really nice exercise for this week, ladies, and please post your synchronicities in the group, right? Like, I'm happy for you to email me, as some of you have done, but I'm even happier when I see things showing up in the group and I see you interacting there. It is different to your normal kind of business groups that you might be in because it's just all of you. So it's a safe space to share, to note your synchronicities. I am not creating a competitive environment where it's going to be who made so much money this week and who had this many clients last week. I'm wanting to create a community of women where you get to share together, where you get to make friends, where you get to celebrate together. So don't be shy in there. In terms of sort of moving forward from this call towards the week ahead, I'm asking you to begin to recognize the difference between wisdom and habitual thinking or insecure thinking. Begin to recognize the difference and take some time each day to connect to your own wisdom. If you have a burning question about what your message is or who your ideal client is or what you're really up to in the world or how you can improve a certain situation in your life, I want you coming back to me with the answer. Okay? I can't give you that answer. That comes from you. But I can help you translate the answer if it seems a bit big or overwhelming to you, right? And you just need help breaking it down. So it's very important that throughout the course you take the time to check in on your own wisdom. And, you know, as I said at the beginning, it does not have to take 4 weeks for you to get your message. You can have that message today. You can have that message in you anyway. Okay, so you don't have to wait until week 4 to get it. Feel free to check in on your own wisdom this week with regards to your message or regards anything that's coming up for you. And note your synchronicities. And I think that between those 3 action steps, if I just summarize, note your synchronicities this week, check in on wisdom this week, and really start to notice the difference between when you're in habitual thinking versus when you're in wisdom. Okay, start to notice the difference. Those are your 3 action steps to go away with. And report back, report in the group, report back. And I will really look forward to being with you all next week, where we're delving into the area of confidence. Anything that comes up for you around fear, putting your message out, criticism, shame, guilt, whatever, we're going to really move beyond that in next week's call and delve into the innate confidence that is already within us, waiting to come out. So bring your questions as always next week. And in the meantime, I wish you all a beautiful week. I've loved our time here. And you can unmute yourself to say goodbye if you'd like to. Bye.
Thank you, Grace. Bye.
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 Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.